February 25th, 2014. 554 solar days after the Mars Curiosity rover touched down. It beams its latest high-resolution panoramic photographs of the Mars landscape to Earth. Upon inspection, amateur archaeologists announce a startling discovery, what appears to be an effigy located at the Dingo Gap, resembling a human statue. The find is just one of the dozens of strange Earth-like objects sighted in the rover images, including a sarcophagus, a Buddha statue, and even a cross.
There are a lot of different objects on Mars that people see or think they see in various rover images. And it's really hard to dismiss them because they do look exactly like sculptures that human beings make. And even after a massive cataclysm, like what apparently took place on Mars, you're gonna find remnants from a lost civilization that's just leaving behind those last hints that we were here.
Ancient astronaut theorists have considered that there may be artifacts and unnatural structures on Mars, since the first images were beamed back from the Mars Viking mission in 1979. NASA officials claim the perceived likeness of formations on Mars to man-made objects is due to pareidolia, where the mind perceives a familiar pattern, like seeing shapes in clouds. But some imaging experts are not convinced that it's just a trick of the eye. Joe White has been working in image restoration for 25 years and claims to have found artifacts on the Martian surface that defy explanation.
The rover images are generally fairly close up, and it is possible to spot things like statue heads and stone blocks, sometimes with writing on and carvings in them. It's such a shame they do so much to destroy these images. But basically what they do is they resize them down so that the details are all lost. But because I've worked in photographic restoration, I know how to do it. All I've done with this is actually enhance the contrast and sharpened it a little bit. The details I noticed first were particularly the eye and nose details on the front of the statue on the left here, with a quite clear mouth structure and what looks like an ear just here. And you have a long, narrow, elongated cone head shape to the statue. Now, this may well be an elaborate headdress on this statue here, which seems to be broken off. But it's hard to say for sure. I mean, this is a damaged statue, buried up to its chin, and there's probably a lot more of it buried just below in the sand. But you can actually see quite clearly that it's the sort of thing you would expect to find somewhere like in Central or South America.
Might there actually be ruins of a lost civilization scattered across the Martian landscape? Ruins that mirror those that exist on our own planet. Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and propose that this is one of many artifacts on Mars that seem to have counterparts on our Earth.
Certain structures on Mars may be completely related to structures here on Earth. On Mars, we have structures that look like pyramids. There are standing stones and Stonehenge type of structures on Mars. There's also a structure on Mars that looks like a sphinx.
Around Cydonia, there are many, many objects, including an area called the City, where the so-called face on Mars is located. There's a massive pentagonal pyramid. There's a cluster of other pyramidal objects that are nearby. And one of the things that's really interesting about the City is that some people have pointed out that if you take the apex of all of the pyramidal structures there, and there are a number of them, that they basically match the layout of the Pleiades. Now, this is something that we've seen here on Earth. We've seen various ancient architectural monuments that are also laid out to reflect the constellation of the Pleiades.
Is it possible that the structures on Mars are real and of artificial origin? That is something where all of science says, no, impossible. Well, is it really? Water on Mars, impossible, right? No, it has been proven. So we have to ask ourselves, what civilization built this and what happened to them?